All right, welcome back. So, quick story. I got this transmission from a buddy of mine. Told me it was good, rebuilt. A lot of nice parts inside of it. He gave us the go-ahead to run it on the dyno, do a little bit of testing of some parts, just because the level of this transmission, not great, not some super crazy transmission, but I would say respectfully 1,500 horsepower, 1,800 horsepower without a doubt. A lot of nice stuff in here. Now, I was told by my friend of mine that this is rebuilt from a local guy here in New Jersey. I don't know the person, never heard of his business, never really, I'm not that guy, right? I don't know everybody in the industry, and even if they're local to me. So a couple concerns with this transmission. For one, to help with the story, my buddy supplied him the case and he wound up putting the parts together, right? I believe it has some type of Jag, Summit, pump. I don't think that's really been touched, besides it's been painted. He's got an ATI forward, which is nice. Upgraded input. He's got an upgraded main shaft. Looks like it's a new, looks like we have a new center support. I believe he said he had to replace, or he needed a planetary. But it looks like our reaction carrier is new. Everything else checks out with them. They look fine. I don't think tolerances were really checked. There was a 350 pump bearing in the back with a shim. So I have all those measurements written down here. Some things I don't like. I don't think he's running too much horsepower, but not that it's plastic, that it's starting to kind of come apart in the corner. Not a fan of that. Everything else seemed like it was installed correctly, and I'm just going to say that with hesitation, but overall, everything seemed to be installed correctly. Now, with this, it's I believe it's an ATI Wicked 400 valve body, second gear leave, no clean neutral. So your typical modifications here. I don't leave in the accumulator for the band apply. And also to note, everything is extremely dirty. None of this stuff was cleaned. To help you understand, he had this rebuilt. The fluid is, I don't know if you're going to be able to see this, but the pan is dirty. But the fluid was pretty cherry, very new. From my understanding, my friend told me that he put it in the car, started it up, ran it through the gears, wasn't even on the ground, and then shut it off, and that was it. So to start off with the case, none of this was prepped or cleaned. Extremely dirty. You can see in here, you'll probably get the camera down in there, but everything is, there's a lot of dirt buildup all the way at the bottom there where the center support sits. The O-ring seal for the pump has some crust on it, so it was leaking out of there. This shop, or whoever it is, they never flat filed, okay? They never flat filed the face. There are deep grooves in this. Now, the ATI kit has you running a gasket, but that's still going to eventually produce a cross leak. Just the dirt really concerned me, because there shouldn't be that much junk in the pan when we pull off, but I don't know. Other thing to note, again, brand new forward drum, upgraded. I didn't pull the piston out yet, but I pulled the direct apart. Everything looked pretty good there. I think it's possibly a Summit or whoever. There's no name brand. Pro Mod Sprag, 36 Sprag, and C6 clutches. Now, with the forward, so we have our high drum here, excuse me, and this was a little alarming to me. This was put in. Now, this has basically 0 miles on it. He didn't drive it. If you look, this is the face that the forward clutches ride on. Okay, this is the retainer. Look at all of the heat in this. This thing's smoked. You got a big heat spot right there. Okay, this should have not been put back in. You can see it's all rusty. There's a lot of rust in here too. For some reason, I can understand my buddy supplying a case, but I would expect that it would be cleaned, right? So that's not the that didn't happen here. So you can see here, here's a normal OEM forward, okay, and your high gear hub on there. So to have that put in there is pretty alarming. It's grooved pretty bad. There was no attempt to try to surface this. Even then, aesthetically, like it's so heat soaked. I mean, it's cast steel. It's not, you know, that should be thrown in the garbage, and that's what's going to happen here. So we'll chuck that. That's gone. We have plenty of replacement parts here. Some of the bushings are a little bit, for the low mileage that they are, I don't know if the bushings have been replaced, but it looks like when it definitely looks like this one was installed and just installed incorrectly. And you can see how it's been rubbing around on the main shaft. All the clutches look good. I remember taking it apart and I'm like, the intention was not to take it apart. The intention was to open up the holes on the bell housing, because we're going to line it up in a jig, open the holes up, because it's going on the back of an LS and they're just a little too tight for a 10 mil bolt. So that was our approach to that. And then I immediately noticed it was leaking. So the amount of RTV and stuff like that, I immediately noticed it was going past the bolts. And so we took that apart. What was fascinating to me is this is your typical 6-bolt pump. However, the standard support, the back half of the pump, you can drill it out and make it an 8-bolt. This is an HD case, so it was actually, not all of them are like this, but it was actually an 8-bolt ready. And there was no attempt to actually drill out the 7th bolt here. Somebody did try, but I don't think this rebuilder did that, because it's got an aftermarket, whoever, FTI, JW Bell, whatever it is, and they only had 6 bolts going on it. Now, in that circumstance, you have to be careful, because there's my opinion, there's a strength issue concern there. So that attempt was never made. So now with my kit, if you have my quick stage kit and you have that adapter plate and you have an 8-bolt ready case, you can use an adapter plate to actually use it as a drill guide to drill your 7th and 8th hole and get that easily done and probably tapped. I might try to offer something to help as a tap guide to keep the tap straight. But you can utilize that and you'll have a fixture to do that. So that was slightly attempted by somebody. I don't know. However, we're going to go and make this a true 8-bolt case, so we don't have any compromise with potentially breaking pump gears on this. Now, again, I didn't go through the pump yet. I'm going to go through it. I don't want to get too far into this. Once I started seeing that, I own this, right? So it's kind of better on me to try to go through it, make sure everything is right before I give it back to my buddy, and not give him a blown up piece of shit because I touched it last, so now I own it, right? He's a friend of mine, long time friend. So, I wanted to give him a good transmission. And the whole idea was to start playing with some of the components I have here that I produce on the engine dyno. A cool way to start breaking it in. I have run a junker transmission on there, a basic stock one. It was nothing exciting. So we're going to get to do that with this transmission, but I wanted to go through it. So we're going to get it cleaned up. We're going to go through all of the tolerances on it. Some new bushings cleaned up. We're going to check everything out again, tolerances for clutches. Now the smell I was getting out of this transmission was from this low band. You could just, it was just hanging up. You could just start seeing sort of smoothing it over pretty good. I mean, it looks like this has some miles on it when it's brand new. Or I was told it's brand new, but you could definitely smell it out of here. You can smell it through the entire transmission. Way different than a clutch. Yeah, so we're going to go and figure that out. I don't think any of that was checked. So we're going to go through and we're going to set all that to the correct depth for the low band. Just going to go through everything. Everything looked pretty good just from general teardown and looking at it. I mean, I would at least Scotch-Brighted this reaction because there's still some surface rust on it, and it looks like a heat spot there. There's definitely a used reaction carrier, but there are new bushings in it. Again, we're going to just go over everything, and obviously new bushings. Some things I don't know for certain because everything kind of just fell out different than I'm used to taking apart a 400. So I'm going to go through that and see what's going on there. And what we're actually going to do is swap out this center support. We're going to actually remove the second ring land here. We're going to remove it completely just to kind of help better flow for the brake. It is a second gear brake, so we're going to want to make sure we have adequate flow for that. And that's pretty much it. A little surprised. I mean, some things are so obvious, but I guess it is what it is, right? Maybe you get what you pay for, maybe you get lucky, maybe you overpaid, and you're left with some things like this, which is just, again, I don't know who did this. I really don't care. I'm not trying to bash on anybody, but as a basic builder, even generally, a lot of these things should have been addressed. Everything should have been cleaned. And because, in all honesty, I think this was probably a 100-miler before it started to, or less, before it started to eat itself. And it's a shame because there's a lot of money in here. The direct, the forward, the valve body. I mean, that can be cleaned. The pump. I didn't even tear into that yet, so I'll do that here in a sec. Forward hub in it, and it looks like too this person machined this down. Not a great job, but it looks consistent. And because we're running a Torrington on here between this and the direct high gear, so we're going to check that and make sure that's okay. But overall, again, it's tough because mix and match parts. It's never been ran under what it's supposed to be. We're also going to take the output. Now, again, there's nothing wrong with these stock outputs. We have these in 2,500 horsepower, 2,800 horsepower cars. Machine a lot of this stuff down without, get rid of the sharp radiuses in there. And they're usually pretty good. We're going to double check this because it was just on the output thrust here. I think this was pinched in between the case bushing, and it just didn't really seem like it was sitting right. So I want to go over that and figure out what was going on there. Okay, and our main shaft, our ring gear here, everything looks pretty good. And yeah, ring gear looks fine. And if you've ever seen these, it looks like it's been hot. That's just their hardening process on these, so don't get too alarmed about that. We'll go through and clean everything. I didn't look at the output bushing. It's brand new. At least that was done right. This is for the direct. This looks okay, but we'll go over that. I usually put them on a granite table with some fine emery and just start walking them around on there and just kind of seeing how bad the warpage is on that. And then I'll check the thickness on that, make sure it's okay. And obviously that could change too. I have several different ones that are still good, and I could set my clearance for my direct. And what I actually do here right now is just zip this pump apart real quick. And we'll just make sure everything's okay. Looks like a factory shim on the pump. We'll see what that is. I don't think, it looks like he's got an upgraded, everything looks like it came with this pump, upgraded stator support, which is nice. Yeah, everything's brand new in here. Everything looks pretty good. Yeah, so they're brand new. They look really good. We might even go in here and add our little hydraulic cushion in here. We may do that. Just keep it from wiping the pump gears out faster. All right, so there's no restrictor in there. Now, there's no restrictor in the pump. Ideally, we put one in there, probably a 120, 125, just for people who want one in there. I'm not going to get into it in this video, but there's a lot of other things that I think play a factor into that. The whole LS thrust debacle. But we're going to put one in there with the trans brake. I think there was one more thing I don't think, I'm trying to think. With ATI's recommendations for this, there really is no case prep on their wicked valve body. And so there's nothing we really need to do there. It's some typical things you have to do. If you have an ATI valve body, read their instructional sheet. It tells you everything you need to do when you're utilizing it when you're racing. Key critical things there. So, you know, we have our drilled hole going through a little bleed, a little 060 bleed on our direct. Excuse me. On a direct, it is an aftermarket drum, so there is not the second seal, so that's not even in there. We're going to go through. We're going to modify our center support. and just give everything a good cleaning. We're going to modify the pump. We're going to put our set screw in there. Right, so we're going to clean everything. We're going to flat this. I don't know how this is going to turn out yet. We're going to get all the rust out. There's a bunch of rust where the modulator valve is. A whole bunch of rust around the linkage, parking paw. We're going to get rid of that. Just hot tank the crap out of this thing. And the case looks good, besides all the dirt caked in and around the center support lugs. But everything else looks pretty good. It had a case saver in there, which I was happy to see. Just a lot of little things that seem like laziness, in my opinion. And especially not checking your pin depth on your band. Not doing little things that cause a serious problem in your transmission. So once I get this going, we're going to get it on the trans dyno. And we're going to start checking pressures. We're going to start playing with a couple things. I want to show what my modulator adapter does, my mod adapter does on here, and how we're going to plumb that. It's going to be really cool to also see what the pressures are doing and stuff like that. Some other cool stuff. I don't think we're doing our converter feed on this, but we'll be doing a mod adapter. And we're going to be testing that out on here, which is going to be pretty cool. We're going to just make sure this tranny is healthy and ready to go behind his... I think he's got a nitrous LS. I don't know what shot it is. Kind of a grudge car. But it's going to be pretty interesting. So thanks for watching. Please check back. We should have this up and running here tomorrow or the next day. I will be, and then we'll get the video posted hopefully this week of this. And again, comment, like the video. Please share it with people you know who are interested in this stuff. And please consider subscribing if you already have. Sharing it also helps too. Thanks again. Check back on this, and we'll have this on the trans dyno.